Isaiah 53:5 is a key verse in the Old Testament that prophesies the suffering and redemptive work of a future figure often associated with Jesus Christ in Christian theology. In this verse, it is foretold that this servant would endure suffering, including being pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities. Through this suffering, the servant would bring about spiritual healing and peace, with the phrase, "By his wounds we are healed," signifying the restoration of humanity's broken relationship with God. This verse is considered a cornerstone of Christian belief, emphasizing atonement, redemption, and the profound love and grace of God through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. Isaiah 53:5 is part of a larger passage often referred to as the suffering servant prophecy. In this verse, the pronoun he refers to the suffering servant, and the verse vividly describes the suffering and sacrifice of this servant on behalf of others. Let's break down the verse in great detail and use Isaiah 53:5 as needed. But he was pierced for our transgressions. This phrase portrays the suffering servant as being wounded or pierced, symbolizing the physical and emotional pain he endured. Isaiah 53:5 highlights that this suffering was not for his own sins, but for the transgressions of others. He was crushed for our iniquities. Isaiah 53:5 further emphasizes the gravity of the suffering by mentioning that the servant was crushed or afflicted due to the iniquities of people. Iniquities refer to sins and moral wrongdoings. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. This part of the verse indicates that the servant's suffering was redemptive in nature. Isaiah 53:5 conveys that the servant's punishment, which he endured on behalf of others, resulted in the restoration of peace between God and humanity, and by his wounds we are healed. This final part of Isaiah 53:5 highlights the spiritual healing and restoration of humanity through the suffering servant's wounds. It suggests that through his suffering and sacrifice, people can find spiritual healing and reconciliation with God. Overall, Isaiah 53:5 is a profound passage that is often interpreted as a foreshadowing of the suffering and sacrificial death of Jesus Christ in Christian theology. It speaks to the idea of atonement, where one person's suffering brings about the redemption and healing of others, and it serves as a cornerstone for Christian beliefs about the work of Christ on the cross.